Dr. Briga Hynes, top of the right. Anyone who's been to an AIBF event will know from conferring and so on that a key component of the whole accreditation, the whole strategy and policy and regulatory development within AIBF links back to the Kemmy Business School at University of Limerick, and Dr. Hynes is chair of the adjudication board, so it puts a huge amount of work into preparing. So she has just commissioned a report, which I'll come to. We're delighted to be joined by Teresa Lewis, who is an organisation which I didn't come across until preparing for this event, the Mauve Group. And she is the Irish representative. So basically, if you are thinking of exporting anywhere, and this topic is about internationalizing your business, the Mauve Group are people that you should definitely get in touch with, because all the regulatory barriers that are there, all the technical, national considerations, you need your man in Havana, your woman in Havana. The Mauve Group provide that. So they can actually open doors for you, get you through your initial startup journey. And last but by no means least, nearest to me, is someone who has internationalized his business. That is Stephen Arkins, Director of Sales at the KCC Group, who help architects, contractors and subcontractors deliver outstanding projects, the right solutions on time. And we have a little video there, which I want to play about the KCC Group, which can explain it better than I can. Simon.
For over 20 years, we've helped architects, contractors and subcontractors deliver outstanding buildings. We're a team of 175 specialists who understand how buildings work, delivering end-to-end, multi-package solutions, including door and access, specialist glazing and partitions, architectural hardware and maintenance, precise documentation, expert on-time installation, all working exactly as intended. Build easier. Build better. Build with KCC.
Thank you. Maybe you haven't been involved in exporting, or maybe you've just started in the UK or Northern Ireland. So this report is called Navigating Global Markets. There is a QR code available how you can access that online. It's called Challenges and Opportunities for SMEs. It's a landmark report that captures the contrasting perspectives of SMEs who've gone through this process of internationalization and encountering global trade. So if I could start with you, Briga, this report talks about the rise of the micro multinational. And of course, if you set up a website, it's a global gateway to the world, to the World Wide Web, bridging the confidence and complexity gap of internationalization. Like, it's almost overwhelming for a lot of people. So how you bridge that and get the confidence, how SMEs are responding to the global shifts, and what are the best partnerships to power your global growth? So look, it's your report, Briga. Maybe you go through the top line highlights.
Okay.
We get that mic on for you?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Ivan. The report, as you said, set out, it looked at both the exporters and non-exporters, because I think it was useful to get a sense of the learnings from both. And I suppose the key highlights are that for the non-exporters, the reasons were very much about perception and knowledge-based. And also then for exporters, we are seeing, a number of areas of, at the high level, risk. And I think a lot of it goes back to what Dan was talking about as well, the political, the financial, etc. But elements that were there as well about sustainability, digitalization, and that whole area of risk management. But I think what's important coming through in a time where we have a lot of, uncertainty is the positive intent and interest by SMEs to go international and also expand. Over 40% said they wanted to do so. So it's within that context then we're looking at how can we build the international agility of the SME sector in Ireland to capitalise on the growth opportunities, but also to manage those risks. So I suppose we have a number of different kind of actions relating to the non-exporters and exporters. So that's kind of very much the high level.
Were there any surprises?
Yeah, I think what was interesting is the trends emerging. And I think one is there when we talk about, again, going back to the point on Dan's, the different countries and the choice of markets. And for non-exporters, they were looking at where would they go. And they were still looking at the predictability of the UK and the European markets where they had social networks and contacts. But for exporting companies, we see an interesting trend in that the process of internationalization is not as linear as previously. So we just don't go to the country. And while most companies are operating in Europe, we saw an emergence of the United States, but there's unpredictability there, but also United Arab Emirates. But in addition to that, geography wasn't the only determinant. What we're finding is the customer base of a company often determined their geographic choice of market, where 50% said that their customers were a very important factor influencing their decision. So we go with where the customer is. We piggyback on the customer. And by doing that, we have an established brand and we create more customers in those countries. So that's kind of an interesting trend we're emerging. That was happening a lot in the service, in the sustainability side, the software sectors, maybe with data centers, are working with multinationals as part of their supply chain, gives you a ready-made market into new countries.
Okay, Teresa Lewis, country representative for the Mauve Group. Tell us a little bit about the Mauve Group, first of all.
Well, we're a global consultancy and employment solutions group. So we support businesses who, especially like what we've been discussing, a lot of Irish SMEs, they act like micro multinationals. So we have the infrastructure there in order to be able to support them when they want to go global. So they don't have the overheads then of a multinational when they facilitate such services like an employer of record. So that's one of our key services, is that we can provide support for businesses who want to employ staff in other parts of the world and not necessarily have their own entities. So we provide that resource for them. We can employ their staff, pay them, and act as like a back office for them. So that's
and what jurisdictions are we talking about? UK, EU, US, China?
We have 150 countries that we can support in. We have 70 of our own entities, and where we don't have our own entities, we can still offer our services through trusted partners and networks.
And what would you say to an SME founder maybe in the room who thinks, well, we're too small to go global? What would you say to them?
I think that we see that a lot, and also the lack of confidence as well. And what I would say is that, no, I mean, people don't realize that they are actually ready. A lot of Irish businesses don't feel that they are, but they can be. We get requirements for, one member of staff that perhaps wants to relocate to another place, and that's a trusted member of staff. They don't want to lose the talent. So we can employ that one member of staff for them in another part of the world. So no, they're not too small. And very often we see then there's a snowball effect. Once they understand how that service works, they are open to, employing in other parts of the world then and taking on staff that they can manage remotely across different time zones.
And one of the surprises in the report for me was that 90% of global growth is expected to occur outside the EU by 2030. Like, the EU is 450 million people, single market, every advantage. How can people help for these new frontiers for which the logistics are even greater?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're familiar perhaps historically with doing business with places that they have been in the past, but with these emerging markets, there is that lack of confidence because they don't know how the compliancy issues work and so on. But what we would say to them is that we do have such a great partner network in all of these different countries that they can lean on us for that support. And that's the value of using a provider like Mauve Group, because we have all these connections and vetted, trusted partners, so we ensure compliance.
And just tell me, in terms of the model you have for doing business with people, like, is it front-loaded? Is it based on turnover? how do you actually invoice, and what's the sort of nature of the contract that you would sign with Mauve?
Well, we'd have we do a proposal. We have our service agreements. It depends on the service. There's not only the employer of record. We have HR consultancy. We can do compliance risks. We look at visa and immigration support. So we would have an initial chat, and then if everybody is happy with our costs and so on, we enter into a service agreement with them. And so depending on what that service is, we could be invoicing them monthly if we are employing someone in a country for them, or it could be that we're setting up an entity for them, in which case then we would invoice once that.
And do you have a stand here?
I don't have a stand here.
Oh, right. Will you be around for the...
I am. After this, I can relax and enjoy myself, and I'll be floating around happy as Larry.
What is your website if people want to get in touch?
www.mauve.com, mauvegroup.com.
Couldn't be simpler. Stephen, take us through KCC's product range and portfolio, and do they vary from country to country?
Okay, thanks, Ivan. KCC Group, I suppose our ethos is to make buildings work. And in making buildings work, that's how we see our purpose. We'd like to think we take a building from a design stage right through to dealing with an end user. We have 4 different divisions as the way the business is set up. So from a design stage, dealing with a contractor, an architect and being specified, we have a division called FPD, which is facades, partitions and doors. We then see it through once the building's been designed or specified. We then have an automatics and access control division to automate or put access control into that building. We then are better known for hardware, and our hardware then is installed within the building, and then it's followed up by our service division, who in turn come in at the end or after a defects and warranty period, and they look after the building in all aspects of service and maintenance at the end.
Okay, that's what you do. Tell us about how you view international opportunities for growth for this audience, and how people can best expand.
Okay, the opportunity is there, and the construction data currently is telling you that the development and the information that comes across to us is telling us that there's going to be there's infrastructure being built in commercial, in education, and healthcare. We tend to follow our clients where we have relationships. The opportunity lies across seas in the building of data centers. We'll follow our clients through several different product portfolios worldwide. We've gone as far afield as South Africa through manufacturing of steel, timber doors. There's opportunities also, and across various different product ranges such as facades, glazed division as well.
It's actually a fantastic success story, KCC, in its own right. Okay. I want to conclude with each of you giving your tuppence worth on 2 aspects. The most common mistakes people make when they internationalize their business, and the best bit of takeaway advice you'd give to anyone when considering to go beyond the domestic market. I'll start with you, Stephen.
What the first one was? The most common mistakes, was it?
Yeah, 2 things. The upside and downside. The most common mistake people make, they either underestimate the cost or the time or the red tape, and there are things different over there than there are here. What is the most common mistake you've seen from your own direct experience? And the other thing is what's the best bit of advice you give to people who are thinking of expanding abroad?
Okay, the most common mistake is I suppose is no different to any aspect of business. Do your due diligence. Whilst everybody in the room will have a product or a portfolio that they feel they have a success with, it's very, very important you know what your target is, and you can see the end game. Ultimately, there's no point in you selling or providing a service or product to somebody that ultimately you may think that it will work, but without doing your due diligence, you need to know that targeted area. With regards to the second one was, sorry, Ivan?
You have a mind like a sieve.
I have.
The best bit of advice. I deal with animals, children, but not with this panel before. But wait till I tell you, I'm only joking. The best bit of advice.
Best bit of advice is follow your clients, follow your relationships. The bottom line is, if you've built good, long-standing relationships over several years, follow your clients, follow your relationships. They'll take you into different territories and further afield.
Same for you, Teresa, and don't ask me to repeat it. Okay.
I think it's not understanding the compliance aspect, maybe, and yeah, because what we see is a lot of examples where, especially after COVID, people went and worked in other parts of the world because they left Ireland and they weren't compliant, and so don't underestimate, penalties and fines and the importance of compliance. So my advice would be, do your research and choose your partners wisely. Choose really good, trusted partners that are going to have your back and they understand complicated international employment law and tax and payroll and so on.
So that would be almost the way you incentivize them to let them be the people on the ground, your ears and eyes.
Sorry?
Right, okay, right. What you're saying, the answer you gave was to rely on the people on the ground there, is that right?
Well, no, to rely on trusted partners like Mauve Group.
Yes.
And we would know and we would be able to advise, we have the knowledge, we have the contacts of the partner network so that we can advise on best practices when they are, thinking of either employing someone in another country or setting up in another country or operating internationally.
Briga, finally.
Okay, I think one of the areas that came out in the survey, and I know from dealing with companies, not leaving enough time to plan and prepare for it and kind of underestimating the time and resources required. And linked with that is going into the markets and experiencing it for yourself. Live like a customer. Technology and digitalization doesn't replace that. You need to understand that. Linked to the, important, it goes back to relationships and trust. But even with trust and relationships, govern them with legal factors as well, because sometimes you have to look at your exit strategy. We can have great relationships, but if it doesn't go well, then how is that managed in very different cultural and governing contexts?
All right, you can see we're in the red on time. You've been a brilliant panel. Please show your appreciation for Briga, Teresa and Stephen, ladies and gentlemen.